Hello and welcome to Monster Monday. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the Quaggoth because it's a weird creature and you can use it. Okay guys, we're back on the Monster Manual, and if you're following along at home, this is on page 256. Quaggoth, I used to say Quagoth, but I don't know, so pronounce it however you want. Quagggoth, Quagoth, either one of those. This is a creature who is scary. They look scary, and they kind of have some scary attack forms, and they're challenge rating 2, so you could use this kind of creature in encounters with lower level parties, like 1, 2, and 3rd level, or you could do like mid-level and have multiples of these. They are not the brightest bulbs. They have intelligence of 6, but I think that they're very useful for a lot of reasons. And more so than just what's recommended in terms of like they're encountering them in the Underdark. But I digress. Let me go into the description first, and then we'll talk about ideas for how to use the Quaggoth. Savage and territorial, Quaggoths climb the chasms of the Underdark. They maul their foes in a frenzy, becoming even more murderous in the face of death. Quaggoths were never an enlightened species, but they were not always the brutal Underdark denizens they are today. In a distant age, Quaggoth tribes dwelled upon the surface as nocturnal arboreal hunters, possessing their own language and culture. When elves appeared in the mortal realm, they clashed with the Quaggoths, eventually driving them to near extinction. Only by fleeing deep into the Underdark did the Quaggoths survive. As they passed the ages deep beneath the world, the Quaggoth's fur lost its color and their vision adapted to the darkness, even as the constant danger and weird magic of their new realm transformed them. Turning increasingly brutal and savage, they ate whatever food they could find, and when they could not find it, they preyed on each other. As cannibalism became part of their culture, their past was abandoned. Servants of the Drow. The ancient enmity between Quaggoths and surface elves makes them easy converts to the dark elf cause. In recent years, the Drow have taken an interest in breeding Quaggoths, encouraging their ferocity while strengthening their obedience. Wealthy Drow houses have legions of Quaggoths at their command. Even worse, the Drow cultivate the Quaggoths' hatred of the elves by leading them on surface raids against known elven enclaves. Ding, 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 DM-idea flag. Some Quaggoths absorb psionic energy that suffuses certain parts of the Underdark. When a tribe discovers that one of its own has inherited such powers, they press it into the role of tribal shaman, or Thonot. A Thonot keep a tribe's lore and ensure its superiority against enemies. A Thonot that fails the tribe is slain and devoured in a cannibalistic ritual in the hope that its power passes to another more worthy Quaggoth. Poison immunity. Generations of hunting venomous subterranean creatures and perpetual exposure to the molds and fungi that grow in the depths have forced Quaggoths to adapt immunities to poisons of all kinds. So, if you're unfamiliar with this creature, let me assure you that this is an easy plant into any Underdark run. Let's say that you don't play in the Forgotten Realms, you don't use the Underdark per se. Could you still integrate this? Absolutely. I'm a big fan of thinking of how you could take a subterranean creature and bring it to the surface. But guess what? You don't have to think that hard because they explain it right here. You could adapt this lore to fit your campaign world in any number of ways. This is what's exciting about this creature. So I'll start off with the basics. Let's assume that you're going to run some kind of adventure that involves being underground. Putting these creatures underground is easy. They're also very scalable depending on quantity. So if you have a low-level party, maybe just encountering one of these things is more than enough because they're pretty BA. Now, if you have a mid-level party, you could have them encounter a pack of 6 of these guys. If you have a high-level party, let's say you have characters that are 10th or 12th or 15th level, you could have them encounter a horde of these guys. imagine 20 of these things attacking a group. There's a lot of options there. So I like things that are scalable, and this is totally serving that purpose. Any number of encounters. You can have a Quaggoth ambush. You could have your party stumble into a Quaggoth pit while they're having one of their cannibalistic feasts, and they all turn up and look at the party and, hey, look, it's like pizza delivery. Let's go eat those adventurers. So you have a lot of different ways where you could have your party encounter the Quaggoth. Now, I think what's also interesting is the idea of the Thonot, because you could modify this lore, this history of how long they've been underground and how much of their old selves they forgot. You could create a scenario where the Drow are sending the Quaggoth up for a surface raid. So maybe you have a group of adventurers in a town, and that town is beset by a surface raid by the Drow at night. And there's a bunch of Quaggoths, and the party has to fight off the Quaggoths and find the Drow commander. And maybe the Drow commander's like, you know, a powerful person by herself, and she has spells and stuff, but she also has like 4 Drow knights who are, you know, her personal bodyguards. And then the Quaggoths are just, you know, just lemmings that they throw at the town to create chaos and havoc. Let's say that you don't like Drow. Let's say that you don't play with Drow. How else could you do this? Well, certainly you could have somebody who has an interest in having cheap available death machines of an army, and that could be anything. It could be a human wizard. It could be a vengeful dwarf. Okay, so let's modify the scenario. Let's say that there's a small mountain range that thousands of years ago was a dwarven kingdom and had rich mines, and it was overrun by creatures, goblins, Quaggoths, whatever. And now this older dwarf who, through years of having, you know, seen his family die off and his fortunes lost, has returned to the kingdom and has somehow figured out a magical way to harness the obedience of the Quaggoths. Maybe he created 4 of the Thonots, and those Thonots are serving him because their interest is to reclaim the mines and destroy the, you know, surface-dwelling civilization that's grown around this mountain range. So you could create a much higher level campaign thread where you have this big bad end guy dwarf evil cleric who, I just made up cleric, it could be anything really, but who has harnessed the muscle power of the Quaggoths to reclaim his homeland and to punish the surface dwelling, you know, towns around these mountains that originally, you know, banished him and his people from their lands. So you could kind of create your own lore with this. But I think what's cool about this is that the Quaggoths are definitely not day dwellers. So you have to figure out a way, if you're going to bring them out from a subterranean encounter, you have to figure out a storyline to do that, and that storyline then lends itself to an adventure or potentially to a big ongoing series of adventures within a campaign. Maybe you even decide to flip the script a little more, and you have your curious party looking into the history of the Quaggoths, and you find out that in fact the Quaggoths weren't evil, and that, you know, they were turned evil and turned malicious through the undoing magic of the elves or whatever surface dwellers that banished them originally. And upon further investigations and research, maybe your party discovers that there's a magical ritual to turn the Quaggoths back to their original form. And they decide to help the Quaggoths like become normal, functioning, primitive people again. So I think there are a lot of ways that you can use these things. And I think what's exciting about them is that they're challenge rating 2, so you could drop a couple into, you know, some low-level stuff, some mid-level stuff, or high-level stuff, and just scale up the quantity of them. And that by itself could make them, you know, you can adjust kind of how much of an overall challenge rating this is. So let's take a look at the stat blocks. Basic armor class of 13. They are considered medium, and interestingly enough, they're not evil. They're considered chaotic neutral. Now, even if you don't care very much about alignment, I think where this is important is if you decide to pursue that story thread about the Quaggoths not necessarily being evil, but being kind of made malicious and made evil by their circumstances. And that maybe to a party that's interested in redemption could be enough to convince them that, like, hey, these things aren't bad, they're just in a bad place. And if we were able to somehow reverse the magic that put them there, we could actually save these Quaggoths from going extinct. Maybe, here's something, maybe you even have a story thread that includes some reason to redeem the Quaggoths. Maybe the Quaggoths know some secret, hidden, ancient thing about the local region and could actually help the party if they had a chance. Maybe the Quaggoths become allies of the party if the party is able to somehow redeem them. How, as a DM, do you put that in there? You have to plant little seeds of evidence, little seeds of curiosity to encourage your party to do more than just like, oh, we kill them, okay? Because anybody could take these and throw them into an adventure, roll initiative, and fight, okay? That's the easiest way to do any kind of DMing. But if you want to expand your game a little more, you have to plant things there for your party to notice. Have them make history checks, have them make arcana checks, have them tell them that there's like an old wizard whose tower is nearby who knows things about the Quaggoths, and have them go encounter that wizard and interact socially with the wizard. And maybe the wizard then reveals the backstory on these Quaggoths and how they came to be in the unfortunate circumstances. And maybe that wizard reveals that, in fact, the Quaggoths were relatively innocent and harmless, and they hunted animals long ago, and they didn't eat each other, and they didn't eat other humans, and they weren't just these chaotic windstorms of murder. So those are just some ways that you can maybe plant this into a much broader picture and turn a simple encounter and combat into more of an adventure. All right, back to the stat block. So as mentioned, they have damage immunity to poison. They have the condition immunity to being poisoned. They have dark vision of 120 feet. Their language includes Undercommon. They have a special feature, which is pretty amazing. It's kind of reminiscent of some barbarian rage elements, but they have what's called Wounded Fury. While it has 10 hit points or fewer, the Quaggoth has advantage on all attack rolls. In addition, it deals an extra 2d6 damage to any target it hits with a melee attack. That's definitely a combat feature. I mean, that is a massive combat feature. Now, they might not be in that condition for very long if there's an adept party who is attacking them, but certainly that's something that you bust out. And again, I'm going to say as a DM, it's at your discretion if you want to modify that to make it more challenging or less challenging. So let's say that you know that you're dealing with a party of first or second or third level characters, and that 3 of these Quaggoths in that Wounded Fury state could probably kill them. Maybe you don't take advantage of that. Or maybe you do. Depends on what kind of DM you are. On the contrary, like if you have a mid-level party or a higher level party, you could say that this takes effect once they reach half their hit points. So they have an average of 45 hit points. You could say that if they get below 25, that they have this ability. And all of a sudden, that turns these Quaggoths into some damage-dealing badasses. So multi-attack. The Quaggoth makes 2 claw attacks. They have a +5 to hit with a reach of 5 feet, 1 target, 1d6 +3. So they don't do a lot of damage, but if they're in that Wounded Fury mode, you're basically talking about 3d6 damage per attack, which is pretty huge. So again, when you're thinking about scaling an encounter, if you have a mid-level or higher level group, you can decide that Wounded Fury kicks in below 20 or 25 points. And all of a sudden, these guys are doing a lot more damage per hit. So again, I think it's really cool that that the Quaggoth has this lore attached to it already, so that even if you don't want to have to create your own lore, you could take what's right here in the book and adapt it so that these are subterranean encounters or surface encounters being led by a group of drow. Or, like I said, in some of the variations, you could change the variations of who made the Quaggoth into what they are. If you don't want to use drow, or if you're in your own original world, you can choose who made the Quaggoth into their certain circumstances, and you could choose whether there's any opportunities for redemption or magically turning them back or ritually turning them back if you want to use more divine magic through some kind of a divine quest. That's how you can expand this even further. You could have a little side quest where the characters have to acquire this holy relic that basically was used in the original ritual to reverse the ritual and free the Quaggoths from their, like, you know, bloodlust and their cannibalism and all that stuff. Let's take a look at the little box here on the bottom. This is for the Quagoth Thonot. So Quagoth Thonot is a normal Quaggoth with a challenge rating of 3. They have innate spellcasting of psionics. The Quaggoth's innate spellcasting ability is Wisdom, which has a spell save DC of 11, which isn't very much. The Quaggoth can innately cast the following spells requiring no components. At will, Featherfall, Mage Hand, the hand is invisible, 1 day each, Cure Wounds, Enlarge, Reduce, Heat Metal, and Mirror Image. So a couple little spells there. But again, when you're talking about scaling, if you have a higher level group, you could put 5 of these Thonots into action, and now, you know, they have a little more ability. Mirror imaging, they can enlarge themselves, they can heat metal to induce damage on, you know, people wearing full armor, that kind of stuff. So a lot of different ways to use this kind of creature in encounters and adventures. And hopefully some of the ideas I shared will be helpful to you guys. So thanks as always for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and click on that notifications bell. And as always, thank you for being a part of our community and supporting, and we'll see you next time.